Welcome to everyone here. This is probably our largest group that we have so far. This is our third in the series. We have one more after this, and I'll let Nick tell you more about that. I want to first of all say again, thank you to our presenters, our sponsors. That would be Biogen and Allergan. They provided funding, a grant for us to be able to present these to you. We are recording today, so after this is done, you will get a link, or you can check our website where you can find that recording, and you'll also get a survey. In that survey, folks, if you wouldn't mind giving us more information about other types of webinars, probably everybody's getting a little zoomed out, but if you would like, you certainly can give us your ideas or suggestions about how we can continue to provide that kind of information to you. My family is texting, so I apologize for the dings. Stop texting. So I think that's about it for in terms of information on my end. Again, please, as I said, you're all muted, and that is just to conduct a great webinar for you. Use that chat icon if you like down at the bottom. And then as Nick goes through his different things that he'll be reviewing, I'll share the chat. I'll share your questions. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Nick Peterson. I actually just happened to check the attendees list, and there's a familiar face there. So hello to my old friend. I live outside Rochester, New York, and I was assistive technology instructor at the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired in Rochester for several years. Recently, these days, as I mentioned in the previous webinars, I am the upstate New York representative for Vis-Ability, a company that sells low vision devices and blindness devices throughout New York and New Jersey. We're not going to be touching on any of those devices today. Hopefully you guys found the first couple webinars we did helpful. Today we're going to be looking at applications on smartphones or smart devices like iPads. It's very possible you have a device like this in your possession already. Hopefully, if so, you're familiar with at least some of these capabilities. If not, I suspect this will be very helpful for you. As always, I've included my email address on the first slide of the PowerPoint presentation. If you have questions that don't get answered during this presentation, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to me via email, and I'll do my very best to get back to you about the answer to those questions. So first off, we're going to look at VoiceOver, which is on iPhones and iPads. Now, this is built into iPhones and iPads, and certainly it's one of those things that if you're using an iPhone and something like Zoom is no longer cutting it for you to enable you to be able to use the device to see the screen, maybe the magnification isn't getting it done for you at some point, VoiceOver makes it possible for somebody with literally no sight to use an iPhone or an iPad. And there's a couple different ways to turn VoiceOver on. You can find it in the settings menu on an iPad. And I'm going to position this so that hopefully you can see at least a little bit for those who are sighted, where you'll certainly be able to hear what's going on in a moment. But I'm going to tap the settings icon on the home page. I'm going to tap VoiceOver, and I'm going to switch VoiceOver on.
Settings.
I realize I can't see that screen at all, so you're probably not seeing it either. It's a little better, maybe. Yeah. So the easier way to do that for those of you who still have a home button on your iPhone is just simply pressing the home button 3 times.
Accessibility, back button.
3 times quickly.
Accessibility.
That's the same way we're
selected. VoiceOver off.
The same way we would turn VoiceOver off. But 3 times quickly on the home button, we'll turn VoiceOver on.
Cellular settings. FaceTime.
And now,
double tap to open. Use 3D touch
VoiceOver is
to show
talking to me about what's on screen.
Photos.
And I can swipe with one finger.
Double tap to open. Camera. Weather.
And it will read each individual icon on the screen. Or I can tap with 2 fingers once to make it
News.
stop talking. If it's getting a little
iTunes Store.
long-winded, there's something
Double
that's
tap to open.
like that. Something that's saying that I don't want to hear all that. I can tap twice with 2 fingers to
App Store.
silence
Double
the
tap to open.
speaking. Doesn't actually turn speech off, it just silences it. We can also swipe up with 2 fingers.
Edit mode. FaceTime. Photos. Camera. Web.
To start reading from the top of the screen, we can swipe down with 2 fingers
Weather. Notes.
to continue
Reminders.
reading from wherever
News.
we are on the screen.
iTunes Store. Row 2.
It can make it
Edit
very
mode.
possible
Row
to
2.
do
Column-
anything
row
that
2.
you're wanting to
Column
do with your
4.
iPhone
Home. Row 2. Column 4. App Store.
with
Row
literally
3.
no sight.
Column 1.
In fact, we
Home.
can actually turn
Page 2 of
the screen off. 3 fingers, 3 times,
screen curtain on.
turn screen curtain on. So now the screen is off, which certainly is going to extend battery life. And if you're not seeing the screen anyhow,
Books.
there's no need for it to be on.
Health.
Notice the phone is still on though,
Double home. Health. Books. App Store.
especially if you're concerned about privacy
Double tap to open.
with a headphone jack or a
iTunes
set of
Store.
headphones connected to the phone.
Double tap to open. Screen curtain off.
It would make it very private for you to use the phone in any fashion you need it. So this is built into the iPhones. And thankfully, they were very reasonable in creating a practice area where you can literally go
App
and
switch.
practice
Settings. App setting. Settings.
The various gestures. And there's quite a few gestures. It would take some time to get familiar with all of them. But if you go to the settings menu again, to accessibility, you can find Voiceover Practice.
Settings. App settings. Settings. Active. Settings.
Mhm.
Settings. Speaking rate.
There we go.
Heading.
And just simply swiping with 1 finger
Voiceover practice.
lets me move around the
Speaking rate.
page.
Heading.
Notice it's
Speaking
reading
rate. 46%.
as I'm moving.
Adjustable. Speaking. Voiceover
But if I go to
practice.
Voiceover Practice and
Button.
double tap there, it will give me kind of like a sandbox where you can do all the different gestures. You can try out 3 fingers, double tap, try out 2 fingers, triple tap, all the various gestures, swiping up, swiping left, swiping vertically, and see what those different functions do without actually having it make those changes. Voiceover Practice is very helpful, and if you're new to VoiceOver, I strongly suggest giving that a shot. We can also utilize the rotor feature, which I would imagine there are certainly some VoiceOver users who are not familiar with the reader feature. Rotor feature. So if you can imagine turning a knob, maybe like an inch wide knob, turning it to the right, that hand gesture. If you do that on the screen, it will bring up the rotor right in the center of the screen. It's gonna be difficult to see because my background's black.
Actions.
But it's right there in the center of the screen.
Settings.
And as I spin my hand
Containers.
clockwise or counterclockwise, it goes through the
Settings.
various functions on the rotor. And these are really handy ways to navigate the phone also. And this is also using VoiceOver. Or if you prefer, and this is how I prefer using it, 1 finger vertically going up and 1 finger going down will also
Containers.
activate the rotor. And then
Volume.
we can adjust things like
Words.
the speech rate or
Characters.
navigate by characters,
Speaking rate.
navigate by actions, by
Headings.
headings,
Containers.
by containers. And so that enables me to jump from the top icon on the home screen
Dog.
down
Phone.
to the
Double
commonly
tap to
used
open.
apps along the
Use
bottom.
3D touch to show home screen actions.
I'm trying to see what I can do about it's probably a little better anyway.
FaceTime.
So notice I can jump
Double
from
tap to open. Use
FaceTime
FaceTime. Double tap to dog.
all the way
Phone.
down to
Double tap to open.
the commonly used apps
touch
along
to
the
show
bottom.
home screen action.
And again, that's using the rotor
Headings.
to activate
Mail.
the various
One unread
functions of
Headings.
VoiceOver.
Containers. Volume. Words. Characters.
I know
Speaking rate.
speech rate is a common
41%.
adjustment.
36%.
Here I can adjust the speech rate.
31%.
Now all I'm doing is swiping my finger up and down,
26%. 21%.
and it's getting comically slow.
26, 31, 36%.
Back vertically up,
41%.
swipe up, and I can make it
46%.
at a more reasonable speech rate. Typing is also something that people need to be able to negotiate
Messages.
when they're using VoiceOver, of course.
Double messages.
If
41%. Message. Safari. Safari. Format
so, here's my
options.
Safari.
Button. Show address. curaham.org. Address.
And then there's a
Text
virtual
field
keyboard that
is
comes up
editing.
along the bottom. And again,
HTTPS
apologies that I'm
/
having difficulty making that more visible.
curaham.org. Selected.
Hopefully that's somewhat reasonable. But again, I could just turn the screen off altogether if I wasn't using the screen, if my vision
H.
wasn't something that I was getting
Hotel.
any benefit out of.
HG. DF.
And what we have here, like I said, is the virtual keyboard. And there's a couple different ways to use the virtual keyboard. I prefer with touch typing, whereas I'm moving my finger along, it announces what letter I'm on. And when I move my finger away, it automatically enters that letter. It's a little trickier to use than the alternative, which is called standard typing, where you literally have to double tap for each individual letter. And I would imagine probably most people, when they're first learning how to use a keyboard, are using standard typing. But I think touch typing is significantly faster and something to work towards, even if it takes a little time. But it makes it possible to type emails, text messages, websites, whatever the case might be. Of course, with an iPhone, we can use Siri to be able to add that sort of information with our voices, or
Screen dim.
we can use dictation as well, but it is possible to do those things tactfully.
H.
Any questions so far? A little bit more to go over with VoiceOver, but I see a few comments that have popped up. And again, apologies that the screen isn't more visible.
I'll add to that, Nick. We tried, just for the folks that are in the gallery, we tried at staff meeting and several other times this morning here trying to just work on this angle, and because of glare and because of just the size of the different gadgets here, it's really hard to be able to share that with you. So we're trying our very best. Any other questions that maybe you want to type in regarding the VoiceOver app? I know a lot of people have used it. No. And again, this is recorded, so you'll be able to access this recording later on to review it. All right.
This would be how the, no, it's still, goodness. This would be how the standard typing goes. So this is an older iPad. It's about a 9-inch screen. And unfortunately, it's old enough that I'm not going to be able to show you guys Seeing AI on there in a few minutes when we go over Seeing AI. But I did set this up for touch typing. So again,
G-H.
it's not entering the letters automatically.
H.
To enter an H, I need to double tap the screen, and I'm double tapping the screen anywhere. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be exactly on the H. It doesn't need to even be on the keyboard, just anywhere. But wherever I release my finger
T.
is what letter will be entered if I double tap the screen. And again, that's called standard typing, but there's also touch typing for those who maybe a little more advanced. Any questions on VoiceOver so far? I would imagine some, if not most of the people who are. So everything with VoiceOver, I see a question here. How do you answer or make phone calls in this mode? Everything is controlled by gestures. So if you get a call, there will be a pop-up to answer, double tap, to dismiss, swipe, double tap. It's all controlled by gestures. Or Siri is possible as well. Yes, thanks, Eric. So the accessibility shortcut key is in this case on my older iPhone is going to be the home key. And if I
Try again. Passcode field. Dot.
If I triple tap that,
Alert. Accessibility shortcuts.
it brings up an accessibility shortcut list. That's a good question, Brett.
Accessibility shortcuts.
Activate them,
Magnifier.
again, I'm swiping to the right
Selected. Voiceover
and
off.
double tapping to turn VoiceOver off. To turn it back on, I triple tap the home page or the home key. And then I
Voiceover
tap
on.
VoiceOver.
FaceTime.
That's one way to
Double
turn
tap to
VoiceOver
open.
on or
Use
off.
3D touch to show homes.
If you don't happen to have a home key on your iPhone, Siri can turn VoiceOver on. You can ask Siri to turn VoiceOver on, or you can actually put VoiceOver on your short key accessibility list.
App switcher.
And
Alert.
turn it off.
Accessibility short. Select VoiceOver off.
So if I swipe up from the bottom, VoiceOver is on my accessibility list here. But again, you would have to have a fair amount of usable vision to be able to activate that here. And again, it's not speaking this either. So I would say if you're using VoiceOver, you're probably either going to be utilizing the home key on your iPhone, or you're going to be relying on Siri to activate it. In large part, anyway. Any other questions? There's certainly some other applications I wanted to go through.
How does the Android, Nick, compare to the iPhone? And then
Right, so-
one, if I may say just real quickly, Marty, hi Marty, gave a recommendation here. If folks wanted more information, tutorials, to check out the Hadley School for the Blind. They've got really great tutorials on iPhone gestures.
That's a
Okay, Nick,
great,
thanks.
great tip, undoubtedly. So I would say, in my experiences as an assistive technology instructor, if somebody was telling me they were getting a smartphone for the first time, I would probably recommend they go with an iPhone, because the accessibility features built in, or even that, or even third-party software that the device is capable of running is more superior, in my opinion, with iPhones or iPads. That being said, we're going to look at the Android equivalent, which is called TalkBack, and that's actually the next thing that we were going to look at. So, nice segue. So this is my personal phone. It is an Android Pixel 2, and it is it doesn't run VoiceOver. What it does run is called TalkBack. So if I turn TalkBack on. And again, to do that, I'm going to go to the settings menu and accessibility, or you can press and hold both volume buttons for 3 seconds to turn TalkBack on. If you're doing that for the first time, it's going to bring up a pop-up message. Are you sure you want to activate TalkBack? And in this case, yes, you would. Doing that again will turn it off. Pressing and holding the volume buttons for 3 seconds will turn TalkBack off. And again,
Friday, May 22, sunny,
we
72
can
o'clock.
move
Disney
around
Plus,
by
calendar,
swiping left and
Messenger,
right.
double folder, video chat.
Yes, TalkBack
Double
is
tap
built
to
in
activate, double
from
tap and hold to
Google.
long
It's
press actions of it.
an Android feature. So it should be on any Google or any Android operating system. Some things that VoiceOver involves swiping and tapping with 1, 2, or 3 fingers. TalkBack is, from what I'm seeing anyway, almost all swiping. So
Kangaroo time. Folder.
might be
Video
a little
chat.
more complicated
Control.
because
Discover. Home. Button.
there's going to be times when you're
Double
swiping
tap
in
to
multiple
activate,
directions,
Double tap and hold to long
like
press.
swiping down and
Home
swiping
screen
left.
1 of 3.
Not
Friday, May 22.
not at the same time, but sequentially swiping down and swiping left is how you go back using TalkBack. I would prefer to just use VoiceOver and swipe back to the button and then double tap. But if you're using an Android phone, VoiceOver is not an option for you, so TalkBack is your option there. But there's a whole list of gestures for TalkBack built into your Android phone on the settings menu, and I would suggest checking that out. And I would imagine Hadley has information on that as well. I haven't looked into that though. I actually never taught somebody on how to use TalkBack, but it's something that I know a few people who use. Any questions? That being said,
No.
thanks to my new friend Eric Hartman with the Karate Research Foundation, I recently learned about a different program called SuperSense. And this isn't built into your Android, but it is something that you can download from the Play Store. And I was a little quick there, but I didn't see any messages. Beth, were you going to say something?
No, no, we're good to go.
Okay. So SuperSense, actually I think it's technically SuperSense AI, is also free to use, at least the basic version. And it does some nice things. It can read. It can be used to
I am exploring
explore.
environment. Please scan around. Laptop. Chair. Computer keyboard.
So this is it exploring
Laptop.
around. Or you can use it to find things, such as, it's asking me for feedback. You can use it to find people. You can use it to find chairs, doorways, stairways, and trash cans. This is also available on Androids. Yes, it's free, or at least the basic version is. There's a more advanced version that you can download, and I didn't happen to gather or note what the cost is on that, but it's probably worth a shot, especially if you're using Android, because you can't use Seeing AI. It does also read handwriting, although admittedly I've seen better on other software. If you were to download the free or the pay version of SuperSense, maybe it would do better for you. But along the bottom there, we've got person, seat, door, stairs, and trash can. Adware built in, or is that on a pay version? These features that I'm showing, that I'm referencing here, are all on the free version. And again, like I said, I suspect.
Please scan around.
Oh, not that I've seen. It just requested me to rate what I think of it, but you know, that's to be expected. I haven't seen any ads on it though. Again, that's SuperSense AI. It's not on, I don't believe anyway, I put it on the PowerPoint. SuperSense is one word, AI like artificial intelligence. Worth a look. And thanks again for that, Eric. That being said, next up, I wanted to show you guys, unless there's other questions.
No, I don't see that we have any other, no other ones. Oh, again, it says, what is the name of this app again, please?
I saw that, and again, that was SuperSense AI. It is available on iPhones and Androids, and certainly if I was a Android user who was visually impaired, I probably would check out SuperSense. I might even try it as a Apple user, but I suspect most people would prefer Seeing AI. And I say that again, I don't sell any of these applications. Most of what I'm going to be showing you guys today is free. Actually, everything I'm showing you guys today is free. I have no vested interest in you preferring one or the other. It's just from my experience and from what I've heard from people who are in this field or who are using these applications on an everyday basis. A lot of people like Seeing AI. Again, that's Seeing AI, like Seeing iDog, AI like artificial intelligence. That's the next app or the next slide on the PowerPoint.
Short text.
And this is free from Microsoft, of all things. It's not available on, let's see if I can make this visible at all, maybe a little. And again, unfortunately, it doesn't work on my, iPad because the iPad is older. But along the bottom here, we've got short text, we've got document, we've got product, we've got person, currency, scene, color, handwriting, and light. And I've seen some of these similar features on other applications, and you have to pay for the more advanced ones. All these are free here. And let me show you how some of these work. So short text.
Short text.
And good for me to mention, this application actually works with VoiceOver also. I'm going to leave VoiceOver off because I don't want it talking over me. But if you're a VoiceOver user, you can use Seeing AI without having that two-voice situation that you might encounter with some other applications, like unfortunately SuperSense AI. It will be talking with VoiceOver as well as SuperSense simultaneously. That doesn't happen here. It gives you just one voice and it would be relatively clear. But if I have VoiceOver on now, it's going to be talking over me as I'm going through the different programs. I'm not going to keep that on. But
Good 00. Lack calories. Mano health. Lactose.
So
free. Macaroni product. NATWT6.
That's short text. I have this box of Wegmans pasta because I live in outside Rochester and we all love Wegmans around here. And it's just reading the box to me. It can read the directions on the back to me too.
HOV to cook. Cooking times may vary depending on equipment. Pasta approximately doubles in volume during CNJNG. 1. Bring 4 quart water to a rapid boil.
And I've seen more accurate OCR certainly before, but it does a pretty good job. I found it did better in test runs with documents, but it can certainly do a box like the pasta box. There's also a document feature where you can have it read an entire document to you, much like KNFB Reader, which we're going to go over later. Will actually tell you when it's not seeing all 4 corners of a document. The accuracies, it's pretty good too. And like I said, it's free. So it's certainly worth a look if you haven't tried it before. Product is a barcode scanner. So
processing. Small shells pasta.
You might have heard that it said small shells pasta, which is what this is, of course. If I'm having difficulty finding the barcode, it starts making audible beeping noise when it detects the barcode, when it gets close to the barcode. And then as you get the full barcode in range, it scans the barcode and reads it to you. This feature does require an internet signal, so you would have to use Wi-Fi or a data plan. But again, there's no cost to use Seeing AI, no cost for these additional features. The next one I'm a little hesitant to show you guys today because it hasn't been kind to me. I say this, I'm not responsible for it telling you that you look like you're older than you are, but it does, you can actually program it to recognize people, much like the WorkCam software we went over last week. I'm not sure how many people it can be programmed to recognize, but I programmed my own face.
People could be detected.
I programmed my own face
Nick
into it
Peterson
earlier.
near center.
So it's
1
now it's
foot
saying
away.
Nick Peterson near center. If
Zero
I,
thick Nick processing. 38-year-old man with black hair and a beard wearing glasses looking neutral.
if I actually take a picture of myself or somebody else, it says, it gives a description of that person. In this case, it said 38-year-old man with black hair and a beard wearing glasses looking neutral. I do have glasses. I do have a black beard or black hair and glasses. I'm 36, so I don't love being told I look like I'm 38, though this morning I thought I was 40. I've seen it grossly overestimate people's ages, and I've seen it also underestimate people's ages too. So again, I'm not responsible for that. Hopefully it's kind to you, but it's a fun trick that you might want to look into if you've never used this before. Yes, neutral. It thought my facial expression was neutral. I've only ever heard it say neutral or happy. I've never heard it say angry or violent or something like that. But it does that as well. It also does currency, which is really fun because it can do Indian rupees, British pounds, Canadian and United States dollars, euros, and Japanese yen. I live in the United States, so I've got
$1 US.
US dollars here. So this is $1. If I fold it up maybe like twice,
$1 US.
it identifies that it's $1.
$1 US.
If I've got a 20,
20 US.
it knows that it's 20. And it doesn't
20
matter
US.
what angle I'm using.
20 US.
It
dollars.
just knows it.
$1 US. 20 US. dollars.
So very handy, and again,
$1 US.
a free feature on the application. It also can do things like scenes where it will describe or take a guess as to what's going on around you. It will guess, probably living room, a dog. It can do colors. It does a pretty good job of that
green,
too.
Yellow and orange. White. Gray.
So that's a gray cleaning cloth. It says it's gray.
Gray. Green and gray. Gray.
It does read handwriting. It's up until recently, up until I discovered SuperSense, it was the only application I was aware of that read handwriting. But this can do handwriting.
Processing. Name is Nick Peterson.
And it said my name is Nick Peterson. And it also can detect the amount of lights in the room as well, which is pretty unique, I think. So the lights feature here creates an audible noise that gets higher in pitch based on intensity of light. So it's rather dark in my corner right now. If I aim it towards the window, it gets pretty high. I haven't seen that feature anywhere else.
When would you use that feature, Nick?
Well, I would say for somebody who's blind, it might be a common issue. Where is the light? Where might I have the best chance to utilize my remaining vision? I would say if somebody's dealing with even total blindness, being able to identify where the light is coming from is something that a sighted person would likely just take for granted. No, so there's a question here. All the features that I just went over with Seeing AI are free. Finding exit sign, thank you, absolutely. The drawback with Seeing AI is that it's only available on iOS devices, and it has to be able to run iOS 10. So my older iPad, that's probably, goodness, I don't know, 5-10 years old, doesn't run it. My Android phone doesn't run it. But for iOS users using a modern phone, an iPad, an iPhone, it's certainly worth a look. By the way, that also can read in Dutch, German, French, Japanese, and Spanish. If we have any non-native English speakers watching this today.
Nick, I have a quick question, please. So when you're using AI, how much does it zap your battery?
I've been using it for a while today just to test it out. I haven't noticed much in the way of battery life. I would say, like anything, if it's utilizing the light from the device, I would probably cook the battery faster, but I haven't had any problems with that. There's a question about what iPhone you would need rather. It is capable of running, I didn't write this down, but if your iPhone can run iOS 10, so that is a version of the iOS software, the software from Apple that came out 4 or 5 years ago now. If it's capable of running iOS 10, then it's capable of running Seeing AI. So an iPhone 3, probably not, but it certainly can do a more recent phone. My phone is an Apple, an iPhone 8, so that's not exactly new.
We have another question here from Dave, and he's asked, for the document feature, how can you keep a document and a camera still enough to read it without interruption?
That's a good question. I don't think it needs to be 100% still. I've had a little coffee today and my hands aren't exactly still, and it does okay with it regardless. It will alert you when it needs to see the bottom right corner, the bottom left corner, if there's any part of the document that isn't visible. And then once it is visible, it automatically takes a picture of the document and then would read it to you. Much like KNFB Reader does, and we'll get to that hopefully while at time. There was another question I saw about an Android equivalent. The closest thing I found as far as an Android equivalent, we went over SuperSense already. There's an application called AI Polyvision. Again, that's AI Poly, P-O-L-Y Vision. And that is, I suppose if you were to buy the full version of that, and again, I don't unfortunately know how much that sells for, it might have some of the same features or some of the same capabilities, but the free version only does color. It can identify devices, or not devices, but objects to some extent. It's just, in my opinion, there's really no equivalent. But if you're an Android user and Seeing AI isn't available to you, AI Polyvision might be worth a look. We have until 1:30. Of course we do. Any other questions before we move on? I was anticipating that Seeing AI was going to get a lot of traction, so I'm not opposed to spending a little more time with it, but there were certainly some other applications that I wanted to make sure that people are aware of.
I think that's it.
Okay. So next up, we're going to talk about AIRA. That's A-I-R-A, AIRA, which stands for Artificial Intelligence Remote Access. And I don't have AIRA to show you guys. I am going to show you a brief video or clip. It's going to be like 25 seconds long. To just give you a sense for what AIRA does. So let's have a look at that now. And I've shared the sound, so hopefully you guys can hear that just fine.
AIRA is a game-changing technology that connects people who are blind to highly trained, remotely located agents. Using a smartphone app or AIRA's Horizon smart glasses, a user streams live video, geographical data, and other metrics to an agent. Through the AI-powered agent dashboard, agents are immersed in a user's world to provide visual information for any task. On demand. AIRA, the description of life.
So short and sweet. AIRA, what it does, or what it is connecting you in real time to a professional describer who is going to describe your surroundings to you. They mentioned the Horizon glasses that unfortunately I discovered they've stopped supporting a couple months back, so that's not an option anymore. I know in the past it's been accessible with like Google Glass or you can use your iPhone or your smartphone as well. Like I said, it connects you in real time with a professional describer who can do things like read to you, give you directions, assistance, finding things. AIRA is 24/7. That's a new development within the last few years. There is a cost to AIRA though, unless you happen to be at Wegmans, which again, big fan of Wegmans, being from the Rochester area. I know Wegmans has expanded out. I believe it's available at all Wegmans for free for shoppers. Walgreens as well, airports and federal buildings. Not every airport, certainly not, but certainly something to look into the next time you're flying if you haven't used AIRA before. So in real time, the professional describer is looking through the camera in your phone to be able to show you or to describe to you where you need to go, describe to you what you're looking for. Maybe you're meeting up with a friend for lunch and the friend told you they're wearing a red shirt and a black baseball cap. You get there, you tell the AIRA representative you're looking for your friend John, black baseball cap, red shirt, and they will describe to you where that person is. There's a comment here, AIRA can order Uber for you and help you find the car. That's certainly good to know. Yes, there's a question here, how would it work for free at Walgreens stores Wi-Fi? I can't say that for certain, but being present in Walgreens makes it free for you. I suspect it does need to be, you would need to be connected to the store's Wi-Fi to make that connection, or Wegmans for that matter. If you're not using the free services, I checked earlier or yesterday, the pricing for AIRA, at least in the United States, is $30 for 30 minutes in a month, $100 for 120 minutes, or $200 for 300 minutes. So that could be an expensive proposition if you're using it to the full extent of 200 minutes, 300 minutes a month. But they can do all sorts of tasks for people, like I said, reading, instructions as far as where to walk, where the sidewalk is. They don't do casual conversation. So if you're bored and you need somebody to talk to, the AIRA representative isn't going to do that for you. And there's a comment here. Yes, it's free to set up, and any call under 5 minutes is free. I didn't know about that myself, but somebody mentioned that the other day in our trial run through here. So that's certainly good to know. It's available internationally, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's also coming to the United Kingdom and Ireland in the future. As far as wait time for an agent, I suppose that depends on what time of day you're requesting one. I've heard pretty good things, like them being relatively quickly, but again, who knows? I would imagine there may be peak times, but I'm glad to hear that they're 24/7 now. So that is a professional describer, is how I describe it. They refer to them as agents, but they get a lot of training. They're background checked and very professional. Has been my interaction with AIRA so far. Any questions?
No, it seems like it's about it. Good question so far though, huh?
If $300 or $200 for 300 hours isn't palatable, or 300 minutes rather isn't palatable, Be My Eyes may be a free alternative worth considering. Again, this is called Be My Eyes, 3 words. and it's available on iOS or Android devices. It's available in 150 countries and more than 180 languages, so it's literally worldwide. And the feedback I've got on Be My Eyes in the past is that there are more volunteers ready and waiting for people to utilize the service than there are people making use of. I've got, as of yesterday, roughly 3.75 million volunteers, so 3,750,000 volunteers, and about 217,000 users. So I would anticipate, and I didn't sign up for Be My Eyes because I didn't want to utilize somebody else's time as a sighted individual, but I would anticipate that you could get somebody to help you with Be My Eyes whenever you need it. And I have a quick clip that I wanted to show you guys there as well. So this is from 5 years ago. And
45-year-old Julian Vargas can find his way just about anywhere. He's been blind most of his life and enjoys being independent, but says there are moments when he and others who are visually impaired need help.
When we're trying to get some information or detail that's only available visually, we'll joke around and say, God, if I only had a pair of eyes I could borrow right now.
A new free app for smartphones called Be My Eyes aims to solve that problem.
How can I help you today?
I'm not as familiar with the aisles here, so I was thinking that maybe you could be my eyes.
The app uses a phone's camera and microphone to get the blind instantly connected to sighted volunteers like Elvira Medina.
If you go a little bit more to your left,
This one here.
that one, you got it.
Since the app launched last month, Medina has helped blind users locate medicine, figure out expiration dates, and even shop for their favorite orange juice.
That one has no pulp.
Okay, that's what I want.
Okay, perfect. This app is actually something that is helping people, and in such a small scale, but means so much.
More than 115,000 volunteers.
so obviously this is a little old. 115,000 years ago has ballooned to 3.75 million.
Have signed up to help the roughly 10,000 blind who've enrolled so far. What are these volunteers doing?
And that number of users, again, is just a little over 200,000. So, again, something to look into, perhaps, if you're having that difficulties in that area, that might be helped by being able to temporarily borrow assistance from a sighted individual. But again, no cost to do that if that's something you wanted to look into.
So next we have a question here from Tanya. Hey Tanya, why would you use AIRA if Be My Eyes is free? What are the difference between the two, please?
Well, AIRA is a professional service, so they're going to be more adept at doing certain things, assisting people with certain tasks. I know for a fact, though, AIRA isn't going to tell you when it's safe to cross the street, nor is a Be My Eyes volunteer either. So I would say it just depends on what you're needing the assistance for. If you're using it as a professional and you need to ensure confidentiality, I definitely wouldn't recommend using Be My Eyes because you don't know who's on the other end of the line. But if you need a professional on the other line who would be sworn to confidentiality, then certainly AIRA would be the service that I would recommend for that. And I don't believe Be My Eyes is 24/7. It might be, but I'm not certain.
That's the only question we have so far.
Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about KNFB Reader. So KNFB Reader has been around for a while now. It is $99, and it's available on iOS or Android or Windows 10. I've seen it on some Braille devices before too. And it's kind of similar to Seeing AI in that it does text-to-speech. It can also do text-to-Braille. It does offer multi-page scanning. It does almost 30 languages as well, so that's a nice feature. And there's kind of a mixed bag in terms of the amount of people who are out there who prefer KNFB Reader versus Seeing AI. I was talking with some friends not long ago who are users of both or who have used both. One told me that she just simply won't buy KNFB Reader because it's $100 she doesn't need to spend because Seeing AI is available to her. But if you're using an Android device and Seeing AI isn't an option, KNFB Reader might be something to look into, but unfortunately, again, that will cost you $100 to do that. I don't have that to show you guys, but it's very similar to Seeing AI in that it can read, it can identify when the corners of pages aren't visible. It doesn't do the other features though. It doesn't identify people, it doesn't identify money. It reads. My suggestion would be if you're thinking about trying KNFB Reader and you have an iPhone and iPad, just try Seeing AI first and see if that does what you're looking for an application to do for you before you spend the money. But KNFB Reader is something that some people swear by, so you know, worth looking into if you're not satisfied with what you get from Seeing AI.
No questions on that, sir?
All right. And then last slide, and then there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about. Last slide is on Blind Square. Blind Square is a application, again, for iPhones that does GPS location assistance and can help people get from one place to another. And then the brief 1-minute video that I wanted to show you guys does a better job of describing how that would look for a user. So let's have a look at that.
P-O-R. Address is 5 Mill Street, Corvo. Turn right on Alexander Street. Bus 5 is arriving. Next stop, Town Square. Turn left on Well Street. Continue straight on. Destination 100 feet at 11 o'clock.
Moi! Moi! Eilen mä olin mun kaverin sinttäreillä Pypulle eikä se enää päässyt.
Painting a picture of the world through sound.
You arrived at Porvo Mall.
The world's most popular GPS app developed for the blind. Blind Square.
So that was a student going to meet up with some friends from the look of it. There was a lot of snow going on there. Sorry. Walking to school, and it was giving turn-by-turn instructions. So yes, it's going to require an internet signal, but it was, from the look of it, doing a very good job of that, despite the large amount of snow on the ground. It gave instructions in terms of like at 11 o'clock, which is very specific, of course. And it does operate in more than 20 languages. There's a cost with Blind Square, like I mentioned on the PowerPoint. I believe that's $40 as a one-time fee. And again, it's only available on iOS devices. iPad 3 or later, iPhone 4 or later, and you would need a data plan to be able to effectively use that. But certainly if navigation is your big challenge and you have an iPhone in your pocket, certainly might be something to think about. Not that I've seen. There's got to be something. There's a question about an equivalent on Android. I haven't seen anything that I would say would be equivalent to Blind Square. They come out with new applications all the time, and this Blind Square actually falls under the purview in New York State of an orientation and mobility specialist line of work, as opposed to an assistive technology instructor. So I've never taught somebody how to use Blind Square. It's just something I wanted to put out there is something that people might benefit from. The individual who asks that question, if you want to email me, I'll do a little more research to see if I can come up with or ask some colleagues if they can make a recommendation about an Android equivalent to Blind Square.
You know, we have another question here from, well, here are two questions. The first one was coming from Brent regarding the KNFB Reader, just low scores. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Low scores in terms of people's satisfaction of it?
That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think people think $100 for the application is a little high. I've also heard a lot of feedback that they feel like it isn't as capable as it should be for the money. I'm not surprised, frankly. I would say if you're using, and I've said this a couple times now, but if you're using an iOS device, definitely try seeing AI if you haven't already. And the individual who just gave me your email address on the chat board, I'll try to take that down, but if you don't hear from me, you should email me directly.
I got it. I got it.
Thank you.
I took a picture of it and I'll send it to you, Nick.
Thank you. Was there another question you said?
Yeah, certainly. Wayne, hi Wayne. He's come to each of ours, each of our conferences here. Has anyone used Blind Square in conjunction with Soundscape?
Hi Wayne, I'm not familiar with Soundscape.
I don't know if anyone else has had that experience. If you've had if anybody online, I know Eric, you're familiar with some of these. If anybody else wants to chime in and give some input on that, that would be great. And any other questions so far? Now is the time to use your chat icon and send them in.
I did want to show you guys one more thing that I neglected to put on the PowerPoint, but I think is certainly worth a look. So
Voiceover on. Tab C.
I've got my
dimmed button.
I've got my iPhone back in my hand. I've turned VoiceOver back on, and again, I did that by pressing the home button 3 times quickly. Tap C is another free application that is pretty awesome. It just does a really nice job of identifying
Gallery button.
items.
Camera button. Camera button.
It will identify,
About.
doesn't
button.
read,
Share. Dimmed.
but
Gallery. Repeat. Gallery. Gallery.
I guess I need to turn my
Tap tips.
internet signal back on. Hold on a moment.
Tap C. Tap cancel button. Repeat. Dimmed button. Gallery. Share. About. Camera button. Camera button. Camera button. Picture 1 in progress.
So I just took a picture.
1 is great value purified drinking water bottle.
I took a picture of my water bottle, and it identified that it's a bottle of water. It doesn't read text, but it certainly very handy for all sorts of reasons to identify items. They do have a pretty strongly worded notification when you first start using Tap-Tap-See that you need to avoid using it to identify
Save or share most recent image.
Inappropriate items, but it can be helpful for so many other things. Things around the house, things out in the community. Again, this is called Tap-Tap-See, and it's free on iOS and Voiceover, or iOS rather, and Androids. You do need to use Voiceover or TalkBack with both to be able to utilize the features, though. So again, worth looking into if you're not familiar with Tap-Tap-See.
Tap-Tap-See. All right, any other questions from the queue, from our guests today? Any other final questions? Now's the time to chime in. And while people maybe are thinking about it or typing, do you want to share, Nick, what next week in our final webinar will be about?
So next week, we're going to talk about software for computers. So that would be ZoomText and JAWS. We're also going to look at things like OpenBook for scanning documents into a computer. There's some others as well. So we're going to be looking at all that. Voiceover, which I obviously mentioned many times today, is available on a Mac computer as well. They don't have one to show you, but we'll be looking at some PC programs that can be very helpful.
It looks like people don't have any other questions. We just want to thank everyone again. Nick's information, I'm going to put a screen up at the end that you'll be able to access our information, the website, resources on the CRF website. I'll post that here in just a second, but we want to thank Nick again. Thank you, Nick, for everything that you're doing for us. We so appreciate it. And looks like we have a booster battery overcomes reduced phone battery life. That must come from Eric, I bet. Great resources podcast to answer questions is the ATFAQ. There's another one from Bob. Perfect. So once again, I want to make sure that I thank our host, or well, your host, that would be me, and Nick, but thank to our sponsors. That would be Allergan and Biogen. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday weekend. I'm going to post that right now, transferring over. Here we go. Just once again, folks, thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, please email us. You are going to be getting a survey. And again, if you have any thoughts about future webinars that you'd like to see, whether it be technology or something else, feel free to include that in your survey. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone.